questions answered. So first of all, if you could again just introduce yourself, what industry you work in, your employer, and your job title, which I kind of already hinted at, but go ahead and repeat it for
No,
us.
not a problem. I'm working in the hospitality industry, and currently, like you said, I'm working for Cardinal Spirits here in Bloomington, Indiana, as the executive chef. And kind of going into our questions here, um, everyone always wants to know, where you started and how you got here, because a lot of people think it's kind of an overnight thing, but it's far from it. I personally started working in the industry when I was about 15, 16, just during summers during high school, and it never really was like a big. It wasn't like a big drive for me. It was just to make extra money on the side, but
Mm-hmm.
once I graduated from high school in '06 and started going to school here at IU for 2 years, I was doing political science to get to do the
Mm-hmm.
whole lawyer thing for my mother because I personally didn't know what I wanted to do. But
Mm-hmm.
after 2 years there, I realized I did not want to be a lawyer. I was
Mm-hmm.
tired of doing homework. Didn't feel like doing homework every day, and that's what being a lawyer is sometimes. And so I skipped from that and decided to really attack the field that is the hospitality industry, just because the people that were my friends that were in the industry were having a great time. They seemed to be making a lot of money, and at the same time, it was the industry has a nice way of giving you like instant feedback right away, whether it be like a quick table that you serve very well or a good meal that you just served. It was like instant feedback about how well you were doing or sometimes how
Mm-hmm.
bad you were doing. But it was a very fun field to jump into for sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I had a very similar thing where I wanted to be a lawyer because my mom was kind of
Oh yeah,
pushing me to be that, and then I kind
I
of
have a
got
very
into,
enthusiastic mother, so she's very pushy about things.
yeah, yeah, same. Sorry, excuse the background noise, but yeah, I was the same way. So I feel like it's a lot of people where you're like, oh, I kind of just doing this because it's a thing, but then you get in it and you're like, no, never mind. This is not what I want to do at all.
And
um,
it's funny because when you're trying to be, a lawyer or a doctor, the people that are in your class, those are the people you're going to be with the next 5 to 7 years.
exactly.
And if you're not getting along with those people, you better just start looking to something else. That's for sure.
Right. Right. So you kind of already spoke to your career path, but how did you, well, how did you become interested in this field? Like, I know you kind of hinted at it was this instant gratification and that kind of
Mhm.
thing, but was there just any part about it that you truly love and still
Sure.
love now?
Like I guess specifically within the hospitality industry, jumping into fine dining is really where I was kind of like getting my niche.
Mm-hmm.
I previously had done like some management work for like a few corporate restaurants, and really got like a good backbone about what it takes the day to day to make a restaurant or business run. And so far as like standing operating procedures, cash flow, having percentages about labor, food costs, things of this nature. you know, Even though right now I always hate on corporate restaurants, they do teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, that just at home and everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of my family always come together during those times, even if my family was fighting, political debates, it didn't matter. It was
Mm-hmm.
like everyone just shut up and had a good time at our meal, and everyone was smiling and easy. It was always fun to just kind of like, oh, you know what, I want to do that. I want to make people happy with just some food, no matter if they're coming from two different walks of life. We can make that happen. And going into fine dining, it was not just about cooking anymore. It was about making something that was elevated or more modern. And that
Mm-hmm.
was a fun challenge to tackle, and still is.
That's so interesting. I mean, I think people who are in this field of food and hospitality, they have such an interesting role in making people happy through their
Yeah.
craft, whether it's, cooking, whether it's making drinks, anything like that. That's such a interesting influence to have through your career that you don't always get in other fields.
Sure.
Yeah. So speaking of like influence and things like that, was there anyone outside of your family that influenced you that kind of you looked at them and you were like, yes, that's kind of what I want to do, or where I want to go with my career path. And yeah, did you have that person?
Um, not, I wouldn't say from the get-go, it wasn't anyone that I knew personally. It was international chefs that I was following.
Mm-hmm.
When I decided to get into fine dining, I was 26, and at the
Mm-hmm.
time, not that year, but at the time, the youngest person to ever receive the highest accolade in cooking for fine dining, Michelin stars, was Marco Pierre White, and he got them at 28,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like reading his books and seeing that a young person's mentality to an older man's game, and how he kind of broke the mold and made something old into a very modern cooking, was a very nice way to just kind of be like, oh, this isn't out of reach. This is very attainable. It just takes a lot of work. Doesn't It's
Mm-hmm.
harder for young people to do it because it does take that much work and that kind of focus and dedication. But it was nice to know that it wouldn't take 30 years to achieve something like that. It could easily be done with a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good influence. Another fellow, his name is a French chef named Alain Passard, and he
Mm-hmm.
was a really cool guy as far as like having a lot of accolades. And he decided that he was
Mm-hmm.
done doing a lot of like meat dishes, savory dishes, and decided that he's going to change his whole format and only do vegetables for an entire year. And
Mm-hmm.
doing that in his field was a very controversial thing because he had so many accolades for meat dishes and an overall menu that to only do vegetarian meals and vegan meals was just a very weird thing for anyone to see him do. But he did it, and he did it very well, and he didn't lose a single accolade. So it was nice to
Wow.
know that even once you reach the top, there's still something that needs to push you and drive you to something else, regardless of, like I said, how many accolades you have. You still need a challenge somewhere there.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another one, and another guy that also influenced me. He used to cook a lot with Julia Jackson, and he does old school methods of cooking that don't require electronic machines. We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about sous vide with them. He's more about, let me show you how to poach an egg using just boiling water. And I
Yeah.
love learning like that because, I had a chef here in town that taught me, we used to learn how to do things the old school method. And I would always ask him, why do we do this? And he was just like, well, one day the lights are going to go out and you can only cook by fire. So here you go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very good way to put it, and it's still true to this day.
Right. And I think you kind of hit on my next questions. What are some common misconceptions people have about your field? I mean, when I think about chefs and things like that, I'm thinking, like you said, someone who is elevating these things, who knows how to cook with all of this great technology and all of these things. What are some common misconceptions people have about your field, your career path, that kind of thing? And how are you maybe working to combat those misconceptions?
Um, I guess I would say I'll answer it backwards and say to combat. Well, no, we could do it that way. Sorry. I guess the misconception with like, especially with like the Food Network and other and
Mm-hmm.
and items on Netflix and other streaming services where you see a lot of chef programmings
Mm-hmm.
and chef challenges, that it just seems if it's super simple. It just seems like, if these people are cooking this in under an hour, they must be
Mm-hmm.
doing something awesome, wherever they work. And that is something true. A lot of people keep forgetting that it's still TV, and TV
Right.
takes multiple takes, multiple everything. So it's not really, what you're seeing isn't really the reproduction of what they were doing at the time, just because it's meant for TV. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you see more and more celebrity chefs, regardless if they've been in the game for X amount of years, you're still seeing a lot of these people just become famous just because of one or two dishes. And it's not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing. It just seems that because the median age of chefs that are being known nationally and internationally is going down, in my opinion, I feel that people aren't putting in the time and work to really learn these techniques, because at the end of the day, my job is a trade. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that you can read in a book, but you got to get your hands on this thing. And not knowing your basic techniques and not trying to put in the work for those things
Mm-hmm.
really shows in the long run. I have plenty of people that have worked for me and have, you know, certain accolades behind them, where they've worked, how many specials they've done, so, and then when I
Mhm.
get down to it and I say, hey, can you make this very specific, easy sauce? They look at me sideways. And
Mhm.
it really just kind of, the more and more I see it, the more and more I'm learning that these people that are coming up or maybe making certain items once or twice, and for some reason they think they've conquered that technique, and it couldn't be
Right.
further from the truth. If you can't do it from memory, do it from scratch, and like my old chefs, do it by a fire without any electricity or any. A lot of the way of how I've come up and been doing my thing is really just asking questions, not being afraid to let others know, and the people that you're learning from, that you don't know what you're doing. I don't know how many times I would be there with
Mhm.
specific chefs, and they just be like, "Hey, today we have X, Y, and Z cheese," and I would just raise my hand and be like, "I have never heard of Y or Z cheese, and I don't know what it tastes like. I don't even know what it looks like." And
Mhm.
then by the time I would say that, two more people behind me in our team would be like, "Yeah, I don't know that either." And I'm just
Mhm.
looking around like, really? I have to be the one that says this? Like, so, having
Yeah.
that initiative and having that, within teams, I've always become a leader to some extent because of
Mhm.
just not being afraid to either look stupid or say something stupid, just because we're all learning, and people keep forgetting that you
Right.
don't just come out learning these things, and knowing rather.
Right. Yeah. So, to finish up, time obviously flew by, but
Mhm.
to get to our last question, the one I've been really excited to ask people about is, obviously everyone knows right now we're in a pandemic. Things are crazy and different for everyone. So, what do you think the field looks like right now when we're kind of in this shaky time? And where do you see the field or your industry going in the next 5 years when maybe we aren't going to be fully back to normal, but it'll be a lot different than it is in this moment right now?
Sure. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be the normal that everyone thinks, at least for our
Hmm.
industry. Currently, it this pandemic has shown us one thing within the industry, and it's just how vulnerable we really are to an
Hmm.
outside effects. And right now, what we're seeing is a lot of tenured chefs and people that are running restaurants, and either in management or in cooking, they're just taking steps back and choosing another field, something that has more job security.
Right.
There are very very many famous nationally known restaurants that have been closing, and
Hmm.
those people that are offering $200 plate ups aren't making it. It only trickles down to the little guy, and I've been seeing more and more chefs that are older, just taking a step back and just reevaluating their lives.
Hmm.
I know a couple of chefs who, because of their industry, now their partners are making more money than they are, and they are now shifting to do something else as well.
Hmm.
um, but that's also that can also be a blessing in disguise. If someone is on the older side of things and they're feeling it's time to retire because of what's going on now, hopefully they are passing along those techniques and that knowledge to the next person that really wants to continue doing it. So it's a double-sided sword in that effect, but hopefully that's where it's going. In the next 5 to 10, I mean, I could tell you that I personally think that when you get into the nitty-gritty about what COVID has done to our
Hmm.
industry, another thing that we've been shown is that the national companies that we're using, as far as like meat, produce, an
Hmm.
international market, it has been working, but it it failed us. This whole thing failed.
Right.
Even though we felt that we can get anything from anywhere in the world, and because America is the melting pot, we can use all that. And now, because of COVID, I feel like I'm gonna be seeing a lot uh, more farm to table, just because it's
Hmm.
better to help your local farmers out, because the
Hmm.
national shortage, you might as well buy local. It's here, it's
Right.
available. You know it's gonna be here. Ordering food, and especially beef was a big one. We found out how big the meat industry is, to the point where you know, beef was skyrocketing. And I
Right.
know a lot of restaurants here in town that just, they were offering like a $10 burger only
Hmm.
because the meat was so expensive. It was still your no thrills burger. It was just $10, but
Yeah.
And unfortunately for us, that didn't really affect me. We use our meat from somewhere here in Indiana, in southern
Mhm.
Indiana, specifically Hopstad, Indiana. So their prices only went up because their feed went up, but everything else
Right.
wasn't really affected. So I didn't feel it as much there, but only because I was already using a local partner, and
Mhm.
they control everything from the actual birthing all the way to the butchering. It's
Wow.
controlled, and because of that, and using a local thing, it also opened up my eyes to how that was working. I think that's going to be the next thing. We're going to see a lot more younger cooks hopefully stepping
Mhm.
up and doing their thing, which why I encourage more people to get into this field at the moment, because it's becoming more and more available that these management positions, whether it be a kitchen
Mhm.
manager, a sous chef, even up to executive chefs, the median age is coming down. So it
Mhm.
means a lot more people need to be here for it, and a lot more people need to be on their skills. So when these jobs open up, you can come in ready to go, and you still might need some help, but you'll still have a great background and a good backbone of what you're doing. I
Mhm.
think that's what the future holds for us.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing
Mhm.
where every field goes from here. I mean, like you said, it really was, I think, a testing time, especially
Mhm.
for the restaurant and hospitality industry. You guys really took a hit during this time with
Mhm.
everything being shut down and then reopening and all of that. And so I'm looking forward to see where you guys crawl out of, and really utilize this point to hopefully do bigger and better things moving forward.
Oh yeah,
Um,
well, Cardinal, we make booze, and if COVID has taught us anything, is that people really love booze when they're stuck indoors. So, as far as our company goes, I don't see us going anywhere anytime soon.
yeah,
We'll be here. Booze is American as apple pie around here. So we'll
right.
be fine here locally, but yeah, so
Well,
we'll be fine.
yeah, well, thank you so much for sitting down with me and
Of course.
doing this with me. We really have been trying to find a chef. It's somewhere where we haven't tapped into yet for our students who are interested in maybe this path. And so, yeah, thank you for taking time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedule to sit down with me.
No, of course. Thanks for having me. I try to help out as much as I can. I know if for any students out there who are working with Ivy Tech, cool events that you can always participate in once COVID
Hmm.
is lifted. For next year is at the community kitchen. We always host 4 times a year a brunch, and it's a fundraiser for the community kitchen.